web of lies cold. That was all Naomi could feel as she huddled in the backseat of a taxi, her clothes still damp from the mad dash through the Marina District. Julian's final words over the comm system kept replaying in her mind. "I love you, Naomi." Then gunfire, a splash, and silence. "Where to, miss?" the driver asked again, eyeing her suspiciously in the rearview mirror. Naomi forced herself to focus. Going to her apartment was out of the question. It would be under surveillance. SID headquarters was equally dangerous now that she'd been placed on administrative leave. She needed somewhere to regroup, somewhere they wouldn't immediately look. The Grand Waterford Hotel, she decided. Downtown. It was extravagant enough that she could blend in with business travelers, yet large enough to provide anonymity. She'd pay cash, use one of the fake IDs Julian had provided her. As the taxi navigated through evening traffic, Naomi took inventory of her resources, the encrypted communicator, her service weapon, approximately $800 in cash, the flash drive with classified files, and the dossier Julian had compiled. Not much to wage war against the top leadership of one of America's most powerful intelligence agencies, but she also had something they didn't know about, a recording of today's meeting, captured on her phone before she'd been forced to flee. Hargrove, Blackwood, and Orlov, all in the same frame, exchanging classified technology for what appeared to be millions in cash. And she had hope, fragile but persistent, that Julian had somehow survived his desperate leap into the harbor. At the hotel, Naomi checked in under the name Emily Thornton, paid cash for 3 nights, and requested a room away from the elevators. Once inside, she methodically swept for surveillance devices, another habit Julian had instilled in her. Finding none, she finally allowed herself to breathe. Her hands trembled as she tried Julian's encrypted communicator. No response. Next, she attempted to reach Dominic Harlow using the emergency protocol Julian had established, a message sent through an online chess forum that would alert him to contact her. While waiting, Naomi showered, washing away the grime and fear of the day, then spread Julian's documents across the king-sized bed. There had to be something they'd missed, some clue to understanding the full scope of Hargrove and Blackwood's operation. The Prometheus project was merely the latest in a series of classified technologies that had been compromised over the past 2 years. Julian had traced financial transfers corresponding with each breach, all leading back to shell companies that eventually connected to Victor Orlov. But why would Hargrove risk his prestigious position, his legacy, for money? The man already lived comfortably on his government salary, with a pension that would ensure a luxurious retirement. There had to be something more. Naomi's encrypted communicator finally buzzed at 1:14 a.m. "Reed?" she answered breathlessly. "It's Harlow," came the gruff response. "Reed's alive, injured but stable." Relief flooded through her so intensely that she had to sit down. "Where is he? I need to—" "No," Harlow cut her firmly. "Too dangerous. They're hunting both of you now. Hargrove has initiated a full agency alert, claiming Reed is a rogue operative who faked his death and that you're his accomplice in stealing classified intelligence." "That's absurd," Naomi protested. "We have evidence of their meeting with Orlov. Evidence that only works if you can present it to someone with the authority to act," Harlow pointed out. "Hargrove controls the official channels. You'd be arrested before you could show your proof." Naomi took a deep breath, forcing her analytical mind to take over. "We need to go outside the agency. FBI counterintelligence, perhaps. Hargrove has contacts throughout the intelligence community," Harlow warned. "You won't know who to trust." "Then what's our play?" A pause. "Reed wanted me to tell you to check the 3rd document in his dossier. Page 17. He said you'd understand." Naomi quickly located the page. A financial analysis of offshore accounts. At first glance, nothing stood out, but then she saw it. A notation in Julian's handwriting, nearly invisible in the margin. Code word, Sentinel. Her heart raced. Sentinel was the designation for a highly classified congressional oversight committee that monitored intelligence activities. Only a handful of senior lawmakers had access. "I understand," she told Harlow. "I'll need to make contact with Senator Eleanor Garrison. She chairs the committee." That won't be easy, Harlow warned. She's heavily protected, especially with the intelligence summit happening this weekend. The summit, of course. A gathering of agency directors and congressional leadership to discuss intelligence sharing protocols. It would be Naomi's only chance to reach Garrison directly. I need documentation on the summit, Naomi said. Security protocols, attendee list, floor plans. You're suggesting infiltrating one of the most secure events in Washington? Harlow sounded incredulous. Do we have another option? Harlow sighed heavily. I'll get you what I can, and Reed wants you to move to another location immediately. Use the emergency funds in the second account we established. Tell him. Naomi hesitated, emotion threatening to overwhelm her again. Tell him I'm going, to finish what we started, and that I'll see him soon. Be careful, Winters, Harlow said gruffly. These people won't hesitate to eliminate anyone who threatens them. After the call ended, Naomi gathered her materials and prepared to change locations. She couldn't afford to stay in one place too long. As she packed, a breaking news alert appeared on the hotel television. The screen showed her SID personnel photo alongside Julian's, beneath the headline, "Manhunt underway for rogue intelligence analysts." The reporter's voice filled the room. The Strategic Intelligence Division confirmed today that 2 of its analysts are wanted for questioning regarding the theft of classified materials. Sources close to the investigation suggest the pair may have been selling secrets to foreign entities. Naomi stared at the screen in disbelief. Hargrove was moving faster than anticipated, controlling the narrative by painting them as traitors. Her window of opportunity was closing rapidly. In a secluded cabin 30 miles outside the city, Julian Reed lay on a narrow bed, gritting his teeth as Dominic Harlow disinfected the bullet graze on his shoulder. Hold still, the older man grumbled. It's not deep, but infection is still a risk. Did you reach her? Julian asked, his voice strained. I did, Harlow confirmed, applying a fresh bandage. She's going to contact Garrison. Julian nodded, relieved. The senator is our best hope. She's been suspicious of Hargrove's operations for months. She's also nearly impossible to reach, Harlow pointed out, packing away the medical supplies, especially now that Hargrove has branded you both as traitors on national television. Julian struggled to sit up, ignoring the pain that radiated through his body. The fall into the harbor had aggravated his previous injuries, and the bullet graze was the least of his concerns. 2 ribs were almost certainly cracked, and his right ankle, never fully healed from his escape months ago, throbbed mercilessly. We need to move faster, he said, reaching for the laptop beside his bed. Hargrove will accelerate his timetable now that he knows we have evidence. The Prometheus sale will happen within days, if not hours. You're in no condition to... I don't have a choice, Julian snapped, then softened his tone. Dom, Naomi's out there alone, exposed. Everything I've done since escaping that ambush has been to protect her and expose the corruption that's infiltrated the agency. I can't stop now. Harlow studied him for a long moment, then nodded. All right, what's the plan? Julian turned the laptop to show a schematic of the Willard Hotel. The Intelligence Summit begins tomorrow evening with a reception for senior officials. Garrison will be there, along with Hargrove and likely Blackwood. You're not suggesting infiltrating the summit yourself? Harlow looked alarmed. Every federal agent in the district will be looking for you. Not me, Julian said. You. Me? Harlow's bushy eyebrows shot up. You still have active credentials and clearance. You can attend as technical support staff. We need eyes inside to coordinate with Naomi. And what will you be doing? Julian's expression hardened. Following. The money. The offshore accounts we traced showed recent activity. Large sums being consolidated. I believe they're preparing for a major transaction, possibly at the summit itself. Harlow looked skeptical. You think they'd conduct illegal business at an intelligence gathering? It's actually brilliant, Julian replied. Hundreds of foreign officials in one location, diplomatic protections in place. The perfect cover for Orlov to make an appearance as part of a foreign delegation. Julian turned back to the computer, pulling up files they'd gathered on Orlov's known associates. We need to identify every member of every delegation attending the summit. Cross-reference with our database of Orlov's network. That's thousands of individuals, Harlow protested. Then we better get started, Julian said grimly. Naomi checked into her third hotel in 24 hours, this time a modest establishment, near Union Station. The televisions in the lobby had been playing news of the manhunt continuously, forcing her to keep her head down and interaction minimal. In her room, she spread out the summit documentation Harlow had sent electronically to her encrypted device. The reception would take place in the Willard Hotel's grand ballroom, with security provided by both Secret Service and private contractors. Entering as a guest was impossible. All attendees were pre-vetted, with biometric confirmation at entry points. Service staff were similarly screened. Her only potential access point would be through the hotel's connected office complex, which housed several political consultancy firms. Her communicator buzzed with an incoming message from Harlow. Reed identified potential Orlov associate among Romanian delegation. Believes major transaction planned during summit. Must intercept before completion. Naomi felt her chest tighten. If Julian was right, this wasn't just about exposing past crimes. They needed to prevent the final sale of Prometheus technology. She responded, "Need credentials for Marion West Consultancy. Office adjacent to hotel secure area." The reply came swiftly. "Working on it. Be at North Service entrance at 1700 tomorrow. Package will be waiting." Reed says to remind you about Singapore. Singapore. Their first joint operation 3 years ago, where they'd had to improvise when their cover was nearly blown. Julian was telling her to be prepared to adapt if things went wrong. Naomi spent the next several hours meticulously planning her approach, studying the building layouts, security rotations, and timing her movements. By dawn, she had memorized every detail, plotting 3 separate extraction routes depending on how events unfolded. Her phone chirped with an alert, not the encrypted communicator, but her personal device which she'd kept powered off until now. A text message from Olivia. "They searched your apartment, taking everything. What's happening, Nay?" Naomi hesitated, wondering if this was a trap. Olivia had been her friend for years, but could she be trusted now? With careful consideration, she composed a reply. "Can't explain now. Watch the news in 48 hours. Truth will come out." She immediately powered off the phone again and removed its battery. No further digital footprints that could be traced. As evening approached, Naomi dressed carefully in a charcoal pantsuit she'd purchased that morning, professional enough to blend in with the consultancy staff, comfortable enough to allow movement, if things went sideways. Her service weapon was secured in a concealed holster, and the flash drive containing their evidence hung on a chain around her neck. At the appointed time, she approached the service entrance of the office complex adjacent to the Willard. A maintenance worker stepped outside for a cigarette, setting down a package labeled Marion West Consulting before walking away without acknowledging her. Inside the package, Naomi found an employee ID badge identifying her as Jennifer Hayes, research analyst, along with an electronic keycard and a note with a 4-digit access code. Taking a deep breath, she clipped the badge to her jacket and approached the security entrance, heart pounding but expression composed. The guard barely glanced at her ID before waving her through. First hurdle cleared, she thought, proceeding to the elevator banks. The Marion West offices were on the 4th floor, connected to the hotel complex through a sky bridge that would put her within range of the summit reception. According to the floor plan, Senator Garrison was scheduled to attend a private meeting in one of the hotel's conference rooms before the main reception, a smaller gathering with fewer security personnel. Naomi's communicator vibrated in her pocket as she entered the empty consultancy suite. In position. Technical support station near main ballroom. Hargrove and Blackwood both present. Orlov associate identified. Bogdan Vlas, cultural attaché to Romanian delegation. So Julian had been right. The transaction was happening tonight, under the perfect cover of diplomatic immunity and international cooperation. She made her way through the deserted office. Most staff had left for the day, toward the sky bridge connecting to the hotel. Her credentials got her through the first security checkpoint without issue, But as she approached the conference area, a Secret Service agent stepped forward. "This area is restricted," he said firmly. "Summit credentials only." Naomi gave him an apologetic smile. "I'm so sorry. I'm with Marion West Consulting. We prepared the briefing documents for Senator Garrison's committee, and she requested the updated analysis on the European intelligence sharing protocols." She held up a folder she'd prepared for this purpose. The agent frowned. "I don't have you on the access list." "That's strange." Naomi pulled out her phone. "I have the email request, right here from her Chief of Staff, Thomas Reeves." She showed him a fabricated email she'd created earlier. The agent hesitated, then spoke quietly into his wrist communicator. After a moment, he nodded. "Wait here." Naomi's pulse quickened. This could either be her opportunity or the end of her mission. A minute later, a harried-looking man in his 30s approached. Thomas Reeves, Senator Garrison's actual Chief of Staff. Naomi had researched him thoroughly. "You have the updated analysis?" he asked, clearly not recognizing her but unwilling to admit it. "Yes, sir," Naomi replied, handing him the folder. "And there's additional information Senator Garrison requested, personally." She lowered her voice. "Regarding Operation Nightshade and the Prometheus project." Reeves's eyes widened slightly. Those code words clearly meant something to him. "The senator is in a closed meeting," he said carefully. "But I can escort you to her afterward." "That would be perfect," Naomi smiled, relief washing over her. "I'll wait wherever is convenient." Reeves led her to a small anteroom near the conference facilities. "Wait here. The meeting should conclude in 20 minutes. As soon as he left, Naomi sent a message to Harlow. "Making contact with Garrison. Soon. Status update?" The reply was immediate and alarming. "Transaction in progress. Hargrove and Vlas meeting privately in executive suite. Blackwood monitoring reception. Reed believes handoff imminent." They were out of time. The Prometheus technology was changing hands at this very moment, while she waited to speak with their only potential ally. Naomi made a split-second decision. Senator Garrison was still their best hope for justice, but stopping the transaction took priority. She had to reach Julian and Harlow immediately. Slipping out of the anteroom, she navigated through service corridors toward the technical support area where Harlow had positioned himself. The hotel was a maze of hallways and restricted areas, but she moved with purpose, her badge and confidence gaining her access past most checkpoints. When she finally spotted Harlow at a computer terminal in a small control room, monitoring security feeds, relief flooded through her. The older man's eyes widened in surprise as she entered. "You're supposed to be meeting Garrison," he said in a harsh whisper. "The transaction is happening now," Naomi countered. "We need to stop it first, then worry about whistleblowing." Harlow grimaced. "Reed's already on it. He infiltrated as hotel security." "What?" Naomi felt her blood run cold. "He's injured and every agent in the city is looking for him." "Try telling him that," Harlow muttered, turning back to the security feed. "He's tracking Hargrove and Vlas to the presidential suite on the top floor." "I need to help him." Naomi started for the door. "Winters, wait!" Harlow called, but she was already gone, racing toward the service elevator. As the elevator ascended, Naomi drew her weapon, checking it with practiced efficiency. Julian was walking into a trap. He had to be. Hargrove wouldn't conduct such a sensitive transaction without security, especially knowing Julian was alive and actively working against him. The elevator opened onto a service area for the hotel's upper floors. Naomi moved silently through the corridor, listening for any sign of activity. Her communicator vibrated. A message from Julian. "Presidential suite, northwest corner. 3 armed guards. Hargrove, Blackwood, and Vlas inside. Transaction confirmed." She replied quickly. "On your position. Northeast service corridor. What's the play?" "Wait for my signal," came the response. "Fire alarm in 30 seconds. True to his word, 30 seconds later, alarms blared throughout the building. Naomi used the confusion to move closer to the presidential suite, ducking into an alcove as security personnel rushed past, responding to the alarm. Through the chaos, she caught sight of Julian at the opposite end of the hallway, dressed in hotel security attire. Despite the disguise, she would know his movement anywhere, precise, calculated, despite the slight favor to his right leg. Their eyes met briefly across the distance, and an entire unspoken conversation passed between them. With a slight nod, Julian indicated the presidential suite door, where 2 guards remained stationed despite the alarm. Naomi understood immediately. She needed to create a diversion while Julian accessed the suite from the service entrance. Drawing a deep breath, she stepped out of hiding and approached the guards with purposeful strides. "Secret Service," she called out, flashing her SID badge quickly enough that they couldn't read it. "We have a security breach. All principals need to evacuate immediately." The guards exchanged glances. "We weren't notified." A crash from inside the suite interrupted them, followed by shouting. Both guards turned, one opening the door while the other drew his weapon. Naomi seized the opportunity, striking the armed guard with precise efficiency, disarming him before he could react. The second guard turned back just as Julian emerged from the suite, grappling with a third security operative. "FBI, down on the ground," came an authoritative shout from the end of the hallway. Naomi turned to see a team of agents advancing, weapons drawn. Real federal agents, not hotel security. "Jules," she called in warning. Julian cast one desperate glance toward her, his expression conveying everything he couldn't say. In his hand was a small metal case, the Prometheus technology. He'd intercepted the transaction, but now they were trapped. "Go," he shouted to her. "Get to Garrison." Before she could respond, more agents flooded the corridor. Julian charged, in the opposite direction, creating space for her to escape. With no time to hesitate, Naomi ducked into a service stairwell, the sounds of pursuit echoing behind her. Julian had the evidence now, but she still needed to reach Senator Garrison if any of this was going to matter. As she descended the stairs, a new message appeared on her communicator. "Roof. 5 minutes. Come alone." The message wasn't from Julian or Harlow. Someone else had access to their secure channel, which meant their operation was compromised at an even deeper level than they'd realized. The web of lies surrounding them had just become exponentially more dangerous. Resurrection. Day. Naomi hesitated. In the stairwell, the mysterious message burning on her communicator screen. "Roof. 5 minutes. Come alone." Every instinct warned her it was a trap, yet something about the directive felt oddly familiar. The summit building was in chaos, fire, alarms blaring, security personnel rushing in all directions, attendees being evacuated. This confusion provided perfect cover, but also perfect danger. Decision made, Naomi ascended the stairs instead of continuing down. If this was a trap, better to face it on her terms than wait for whoever had compromised their communications to find her. Besides, the roof offered potential escape routes that the lower floors didn't. Her weapon drawn, she pushed open the door to the rooftop, staying low and scanning for threats. The Washington skyline spread before her, illuminated against the night sky, but the roof itself appeared deserted. Ventilation systems hummed quietly, providing the only sound beyond the distant wail of sirens from the streets below. "I was beginning to think you wouldn't come." The voice came from behind an air conditioning unit, measured, familiar, impossible. Naomi spun, her weapon trained on the figure that emerged from the shadows. "Director Hargrove," she said, her finger tensing on the trigger. "I expected your lackey's not the man himself." Lawrence Hargrove stepped fully into view, his silver hair catching the moonlight, hands raised slightly to show they were empty. "I've never been one to delegate the important things, Ms. Winters. Like selling classified weapons technology to terrorists?" Naomi kept her aim steady. "Or arranging the murder of your own agents? Is that what Reed told you?" Hargrove's expression remained calm. "That I tried to have him killed? I saw you with Orloff and Blackwood," Naomi countered. "We have the evidence." "You have fragments of a much larger picture," Hargrove corrected. "A picture Julian Reed has never fully understood, despite his considerable talents." Enlighten me. Then, Naomi said coldly. Before the FBI breaks through that door and arrests both of us, Hargrove sighed, looking suddenly older, the weight of his position evident in the lines of his face. Operation Nightshade was never about a simple extraction, Ms. Winters. It was about embedding Julian with Orlov's organization. What? Naomi faltered slightly. The ambush, his presumed death, all carefully orchestrated. Reed was to be our deep-cover operative inside the world's most dangerous weapons smuggling network. Hargrove took a step closer, but he escaped before we could extract him and explain. He's been running on outdated intelligence ever since. You're lying, Naomi said, but doubt crept into her voice. Julian found the financial transfers linking you to Orlov. Of course he did. Hargrove nodded. Because they needed to be convincing. We've been building this operation for 3 years, establishing credentials, creating a backstory that would withstand the deepest scrutiny. The Prometheus technology contains a sophisticated tracking system and kill switch. Hargrove, finished. Once activated, it will lead us to every contact in Orlov's network and render the technology useless to them, but only if they believe the sale is legitimate. Naomi's mind raced, evaluating this new information against everything Julian had uncovered. Could it be true? Had they misinterpreted everything? If this is some covert operation, she said carefully, why not bring Julian in once he reappeared? Why brand us as traitors? We tried, Hargrove insisted. I sent trusted agents to make contact, but Reed eliminated 3 of them, convinced they were assassins. After that, we had to maintain the fiction that he'd gone rogue. It was the only way to preserve the operation. And Deputy Director Blackwood? One of our most valuable assets. She's been cultivating Orlov's trust for years. Hargrove took another step toward her. We're on the same side, Naomi. Lower your weapon and help us bring Reed in safely before he destroys years of counterintelligence work. For one terrible moment, Naomi wavered. Hargrove's explanation filled certain gaps in their understanding, offered a rational alternative to the conspiracy they'd constructed. But then she remembered Julian's face when he spoke of his captivity, the scars that testified to very real torture, not a staged disappearance. You're good, she said, steadying her aim. Very good. But Julian wasn't embedded with terrorists. He was held captive and tortured. I've seen the scars. Necessary verisimilitude, Hargrove countered smoothly. Orlov's people would have been suspicious otherwise. And the offshore accounts? The millions flowing directly to you and Blackwood? Operational funds for our network of informants. This isn't my first deep cover operation, Ms. Winters. A new voice spoke from the shadows near the stairwell door. But it will be your last, Lawrence. Both Naomi and Hargrove turned to see Senator Eleanor Garrison step onto the roof, accompanied by 2 plainclothes security officers. Senator, Hargrove's composure slipped momentarily. This is a classified operation. You have no jurisdiction. As chair of the Sentinel Oversight Committee, I have every jurisdiction, Garrison interrupted, her stern features illuminated in the moonlight. At 62, the senator carried herself with the authority of someone accustomed to navigating Washington's perilous waters, especially when presented with evidence of your unauthorized activities. From behind the senator emerged Dominic Harlow, and beside him, supporting himself against the doorframe but very much alive, stood Julian Reed. Jules, Naomi breathed, relief washing over her. Julian's gaze locked with hers, a silent confirmation, passing between them. He was injured, blood stained his left sleeve, and he clearly favored his right leg, but he was upright and alert. We have the real financial records, Lawrence, Julian said, his voice steady despite his condition, not the doctored ones you provided to the Oversight Committee. Garrison's forensic accountants have been tracking your actual movements for months. Hargrove's composed facade finally cracked. You have no idea what you're interfering with, he snapped. Orlov's network reaches into 37 countries. We've been positioning this operation for years. There is no operation, Senator Garrison said flatly. No authorized deep cover assignment. No sanctioned technology transfer. My committee has reviewed every covert action authorization for the past decade. What you've been running is a private enterprise, Director, selling American intelligence to the highest bidder. And using the agency's resources to eliminate anyone who got too close, Julian added. Like the real extraction team that was supposed to bring out our asset from Budapest, the team you sacrificed to maintain your cover story. Hargrove's hand moved suddenly toward his jacket, but Naomi was faster. Don't, she warned, her weapon unwavering. It's over, Lawrence, Garrison said. FBI counterintelligence is already taking Blackwood and Orloff into custody downstairs. As she slipped the ring onto her finger, Julian drew her close, his kiss a promise more binding than any official document or ceremony could provide. To Resurrection Day, he murmured against her lips, and every day after, she replied. Behind them, the cherry blossoms scattered in the gentle breeze, pink petals swirling like memories of darker days now past. Ahead lay uncertainty still, rebuilding careers, testifying at trials, navigating the aftermath of conspiracy and betrayal. But they would face it together, no longer shadows or ghosts but fully alive, fully present. For Julian Reed and Naomi Winters, the greatest intelligence operation of their careers had ended, but their most important mission was just beginning. 6. Months later, the small gathering at Naomi's family cabin in Vermont barely noticed the late September chill in the air. A handful of trusted friends and colleagues, Dominic Harlow looking uncomfortable but proud in a suit, Olivia beaming as maid of honor, Senator Garrison attending discreetly with minimal security, watched as Julian and Naomi exchanged vows, beside the lake where their relationship had first deepened years earlier. Julian, finally free of his cane and moving with his old confidence, couldn't take his eyes off Naomi as she spoke her promises to him. Her words, like her analytical mind, were precise and powerful, leaving no doubt of her commitment. When it was his turn, Julian's voice carried across the water, steady and certain. I died once, he began, causing a ripple of emotion through the small assembly, who knew the truth behind those words, or so the world believed. In that darkness, one truth remained constant. You were my North Star, my compass point, my way home. He took her hands in his, the scar on his right wrist visible but fading, much like the trauma they had both endured. Today isn't just a wedding, he continued. It's a resurrection of everything I thought lost, a promise that whatever shadows may come, whatever deceptions we may face, we face them together. No more ghosts, no more secrets between us. As they sealed their vows with a kiss, a bald eagle soared overhead, its reflection rippling across the lake's surface. A fitting symbol for two intelligence operatives who had preserved not just their own future, but helped secure their nations as well. At the reception afterward, Harlow raised a toast, his gruff demeanor softened by genuine emotion. To Julian and Naomi Reed, he said, using their newly shared name, who taught an old intelligence hand that truth, however buried, eventually finds its way to the light. Later, as evening fell and their guests enjoyed the celebration, Julian led Naomi to the dock, away from the festivities. Above them, stars emerged in the darkening sky, reflected in the still water. Hargrove's trial starts next month, Julian said, his arm around her waist. Garrison says the evidence is overwhelming. I know, Naomi replied. I finished the encryption analysis yesterday. His communications with Orloff go back almost 5 years. Julian shook his head. All that time, all that betrayal, while pretending to protect the country. Some people can compartmentalize anything, Naomi observed, convince themselves that their actions serve some greater good. And some people, Julian said, turning to face her, risk everything for the truth, no matter how dangerous or inconvenient. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. I'm glad I married one of those. Naomi smiled, leaning into his touch. Our new assignment starts Monday. Ready to build something instead of uncovering conspiracies? With you? Julian pulled her closer. I'm ready for anything. As they rejoined their guests, Naomi caught sight of the silver compass, now mounted in a small display frame alongside their wedding invitation, a reminder of the journey that had brought them here. A journey through death and resurrection, through shadows and light, through deception and finally truth. For Commander Julian Reed and Dr. Naomi Reed, the ghosts had been laid to rest. What remained was a future they would build together, one day, one mission, one truth at a time.